Good morning. My name is Steve Johnson. I'm president of the 75th Ranger Regiment Association. And on behalf of the 75th Ranger Regiment Association and the United States Army Ranger Association, we are very proud to present a program to you, the first of which I will introduce the key players, but before I forget, I need to mention Mary. Thank you very much for being with us. She's agreed to be with us tomorrow night to also sing the national anthem. And we are very pleased to have you here. A little background about Mary Kubik. Her brother, Ron, served in the 3rd Bat KIA, and Mary is a Gold Star sister. So, welcome. Speakers, and I will just briefly introduce them to you, and after that they can take control because I don't know what they're going to do. Okay, so I'm not going to talk about it, but we'll stay tuned anyway. First off, we have Master Sergeant Yuma Burnett, who's with the 75th Ranger Regiment Association. Not the association, but with the 75th Ranger Regiment. He'll be talking about the Phalanx Program. We also have retired Ranger Regiment, Honorary Ranger Regiment Sergeant Major Mike Paul with us. And then we also have, who just gave over to share his morning prayer with us this morning, is Tony Main, who's involved with the Gallant Few, along with, for those who were able to attend the ribbon cutting ceremony, the Ranger Outreach Center. Just a few blocks across the river, get across the river and a few blocks down. It's pretty amazing. So without any further ado, gentlemen, you can go ahead and take over and I'll get out of your way.
Hey, good morning. Again, I'm Mike Hall. Got the 1st Ranger Battalion in 1976. Spent about 16 years there. And went to 101st, served in 3187. Came back to the regimental sergeant major, went off to JSOC, USASOC, and spent about 34 years in the Army. The title of the brief is the Ranger for Life Program. The Ranger for Life Program, and you see it's a scroll up there, the 75th Ranger Regiment. So the brief is built around the Ranger for Life Program, which is a 75th Ranger Regiment program. But it's actually a joint program. I mean, the Three Rangers Foundation, which I'm the executive director of, is specifically for the 75th Ranger Regiment. But the Gallant Few organization is for all Rangers. So it's a transition program, a Ranger assistance program for all Rangers. So part of the brief will be specifically about the 75th, and part of it will be for all Rangers. But at the end of the day is, just like the 75th RA and YSARA, it's about all Rangers. So if somebody needs assistance, we're going to be there. You know, Ranger for Life, and obviously this applies to everybody, but this is what we believe. And this is just like you Vietnam Rangers who are you know, how formative it was for you in your company in Vietnam. It's the same in the Ranger Regiment. That's a tradition that's carried on, and you found that through generations and generations and generations. You know, that is how it's shaped your life, the rest of your life. It's amazing, and it's something unique, I think to Rangers. Something that the Army has never been really good at. The Army's always told you to get an education, but they never really provided an opportunity to do that. Maybe got some old guys smiling about that, goodness. But you know, one thing the Ranger Regiment and the Army's gotten a lot better at is taking advantage of those educational opportunities. The 75th Ranger Regiment has actually hired education counselors down at battalion level, and I believe it's the only organization in the military that has education counselors. So that's how important it is. And most important is, you know, back in the day, I'm still in Miss Thunder, I'm sorry, you know, the Army's always said, hey, if you want to get promoted, you got to get your education. And they also said, hey, if you want to get promoted, you got to be, you got to spend your time as a team leader, squad leader, platoon sergeant. You didn't have time to do both, you know, but the regiment has made that commitment to help guys and gals meet that requirement. So we think education is important. Ranger veterans, they have numerous opportunities to give back. Both these associations have been around a lot longer than Gallant Few and Three Rangers have proven that. And this, the second to last bullet, the best spokesman for the regiment is a successfully transitioned Ranger. At the end of the day, people ask what the Ranger for Life program is about. The Ranger for Life program is a retention program. That's what it's about. The society has changed, people have changed, and what the chain of command has figured out, what some people figured out a long time ago, is if you want to keep good people in your organization, you got to treat them like good people. And that means, sometimes that means you got to help them lead. And, so you lose a good person, but the bottom line is, if people see that you're taking care of them, you're helping them meet their goals, that guy or gal, they're going to leave anyway because they have separate goals. But there's a whole bunch of other folks out there that are on the fence and are trying to figure out, what do I want to do? Does this organization really care about me? And they see that, they're helping this person leave, they're giving them, the opportunities they need to do what they want to get on in life. And they go, you know what, maybe this is a good organization. Maybe I'll hang around and, and take advantage of this. So at the end of the day, it's really a retention program. It's completely different to the Army theory of those of us that have been through, you got beat up on re-enlistment statistics, and if you did everything you could to keep a guy in, and if you left, you were a traitor, and you got called all kinds of names like that, that doesn't, I don't think that ever worked. It never worked. Everybody in here is a Ranger veteran. I think we all have that combative attitude that if you told us to do something, we're not going to do it just because you told us to do it. So, it's never really worked in organizations like the Rangers anyway. So this attitude has been going on, at least in the Ranger Regiment, for about 3 generations of leaders. And, if you talk about culture change in an organization, whether it's a military organization, a civilian organization, once you go through about 3 changes of leadership, you know what it is? It's the way it's always been. So that is deeply inculcated there. Happy spouse, happy Ranger. We firmly believe that. As many of you know or have heard, the very first Ranger Family Support Group was started in 1st Ranger Battalion back in 1974. It was very unique back then because before that you just had officers' wives clubs and things like that. But one of the things that makes the Ranger Regiment also unique is families is commander's business. A lot of people say that, but it's truly true there. And at the end of the day, the Ranger for Life program is a joint program. One of the things I was asked to do when I became the honorary sergeant major was to also help try to bring all the organizations together. Because every organization, if you break it all down, it's all about how to take care of Rangers. And it's not about the association or what they do. So it was a matter of, let's all get together, let's figure out what everybody else does. And instead of saying, talking, bad about an organization, says, that's your problem? Well, this is the organization that does that. That's your problem? This is the organization that does that. And, instead of everybody, competing. How we got here, Gallant Few was established by Major Retired Carl Monger. We served together in 175 with Major Roger Rangers a long time ago. And he started the organization, which started really a lot of things, the concept of taking, a specific organization that was dealing with Rangers with transition and things like that no other organization was really concentrating on. It was a little bit different than what other organizations would do. It was truly a gap. He did not form it, I'm speaking for him, but he did not form it to compete with any other organization. He saw a gap that he thought needed to be filled, and that's what he's been doing since then. So contrary to popular belief, that's exactly why Gallant Few was formed, not to compete with anybody else, but to fill a gap that he saw and many of us saw also. I think if you know a little bit about Gallant Few, you see that's absolutely true. Three Rangers Foundation was formed in 2014. It was formed by 3 Rangers from 3B Company 375 Rangers that were involved in Task Force Ranger. They decided They were going to get out and they were going to form an organization that was going to help all veterans do all things. Pretty broad mission statement. That subsequently changed. Now it's a very, very narrow mission, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. In 2014, the Ranger for Life concept was first proposed by Major Retired Maine. It was in 2015 the Doggery Project was formed, which specifically formed on to take care of Rangers. As Gallant, you expanded to take care of all veterans. In 2017, came the Honorary Sergeant Major of the Regiment, and the chain of command called me in and said, this is what we want to do. We want to start implementing this Ranger for Life program, and would you pull it together, because that's not something the active duty unit can really do. So that is something that we've been working on, not only the program, but bringing the association together for a long time. Again, not to tell any association what to do, but just to get us to work better, to be the conduit, more than anything else, back to Ranger Regiment. Because I think that's what all the organizations want, to know what they can really do to help Rangers. In 2019, the Ranger for Life and Phalanx Program became an official policy. It's policy number 25, if anybody's interested in that. So, that was the chain of command saying, this isn't a flash in the pan, this is going to be here forever, this is something we're going to support, we're going to put resources behind. We have a whole section of senior non-commissioned officers and field grade officers that I don't know if they're still taken out of hide, but pulling people out of other important positions. That's how important the chain of command thought this was, and that's really when that particular program really started off. As we expand, as Steve mentioned, the Ranger Outreach Center was open here in Columbus to be a place for all Rangers to come and find out about transition or whatever issues, and Tony's going to talk a little bit more about that. The plans are, to open up similar facilities out at Fort Lewis, where 2nd Ranger Battalion is, and Hunter Army Airfield, where 1st Battalion is. Working with all the organizations, working with Sue Sponte out of 1st Battalion, and the Point de Hoc Foundation out of 2nd Battalion. And again, with the umbrella reach of the two larger organizations, the 75th RA and USARA. So right now I'm going to turn it over to Master Sergeant Burnett, and he's going to talk to you a little bit about the Phalanx Program and give you some stats, I think, and show you a real cool video. He's doing that. That's Sergeant Burnett. We actually have something very in common. We both started in A Company 175, except he started like a quarter century after I did. Literally. He was in 1st Platoon, right?
This is the life of a Ranger. Successful, educated, healthy, and happy. In the beginning, 18 years old, fresh out of high school, he didn't want to start his own company, dive into an industry, or go to college. He wanted to go to war, to hunt down the enemies of our nation. The 75th Ranger Regiment always appealed to him. The discipline, the opportunity, the team. It was what forged him into a weapon ready for battle. At that point, he wasn't thinking about his future. He lived in the moment, challenge to challenge, paycheck to paycheck. But when the NCOs in the company talked about how time flies and mentioned the Phalanx Program, he finally listened. Phalanx is an ancient battle formation, uniting men together in a nearly impenetrable force, the ultimate team. In the Ranger Regiment, Phalanx unites the elements of being a Ranger, developing us beyond a weapon of war so that we're always ready for life beyond service. Phalanx is a framework for Rangers to perform, qualify, and sustain their progression in the regiment, and it's built on 3 pillars: career progression, education, and human performance. No matter where you are as a Ranger, you're a part of a Phalanx. Trained professionals help you through your current career and prepare you for transition while also keeping your mind, body, and spirit sharp. Rangers realize the importance of education. Qualified counselors can get you working towards your bachelor's degree and open up other opportunities for lifelong advancements in your academics. Before, during, or after injury, you'll receive all the care you'll ever need. From state-of-the-art rehabilitation to top-tier physicians and trainers. Every step of the way, the pillars are there for you. Even after you leave, because everyone leaves the Army at some point, Phalanx is there to help you transition. The program is specifically designed to follow you out of the Army, because once a Ranger, always a Ranger. You've never lived a life of ease. You've had endless deployments and cycles of war, and you're thankful for that, because through years of service, marriage, family, degrees, deployments, and a successful transition out of the Army, Phalanx helps you become not only a Ranger then, but a Ranger forever. We band together like the warriors of old. So when someone asks you what Phalanx is, tell them it's what every Ranger needs to succeed. And when we say you're a Ranger for life, I mean you.
Good morning, can everybody hear me? Back there? I'm Master Sergeant Burnett till January 1st when I'll retire and be on the other side of this breakfast. But I've been in the regiment for about 20 years. I spent 14 years at 175 through my platoon sergeant time, jumped over to Australia as part of the regiment and embedded with the commandos in Australia, and then came back to 375 and then was the first sergeant and the operations sergeant major over at 375. And then about a year and a half ago, I asked RSM Donaldson if I could take over the Phalanx program and kind of get it going as I exited service. I'd be remiss if I didn't say what this organization has meant to me as a Ranger for the last 20 years of my life, right? And I'll take you to a time to a younger me inside of a ready room in Al Asad, Iraq, right? And I'm a new squad leader on my 5th deployment. I'm in that ready room, and if you've been in a ready room, you know the smells of a ready room. CLP, and you hear machine gun ammo getting pulled out of their drums and slapped over machine guns, and you can hear the metal on metal as they're putting CLP on their guns. And you can hear the Velcro of body armor, they're putting it on, we're about to walk out to an aircraft. And I have this emotion coming over me, and I'm like, man, this is awesome, I love this place. There's no place I'd rather be. So I walk out of that ready room and I walk into a CH-47 with the rotor spinning, and if you've done it, if you've been on any aircraft, you know you can feel the heat coming off the engines as you approach. I mean, I can feel it right now. And as you brake under the rotors, that heat dissipates because you move in front of the engines, you just feel the rotor wash, and all you feel is the crew chief or the platoon sergeant touch you, count you on, right? And you get on that aircraft, you sit down, you strap in, it takes off. And if you've ever been on an aircraft, you know there's like a calm that comes over it. It's loud, it's noisy, but it's really calm until that 10-minute call, right? There's just a calm about it. Team leaders looking at their garments, somebody's always taking a nap, there's always a sleepy Ranger, right? Always. And I'm looking around, I'm like, man, I'm with my best friends, we've been through all this training, the blood, the sweat, the tears. This is great, I love it. And at the 10-minute call, you know, an aircraft kind of comes to life and starts to beat, and one heartbeat, one pulse, and one motion as it starts to move, and people start to get up and wake up, and crew chiefs stand up and starts scanning their sectors, right? And the 6-minute call comes more alive, and I can see the canine handler up there with the canine pulling on his leash. And the 3-minute call, you know, it's kind of you're all in at 3 minutes. It's either, you know, you're there. There's no turning back. And we're all on a knee at 3 minutes, and it just hits me all of a sudden. This is where I belong. This is my purpose in life. You know, and as that young squad leader, you know, 24 years old, I knew where I was going to be for at least the next 20 years. I was going to be a Ranger. I was going to train Rangers and help them get to combat and hopefully bring them home every time. In 1 minute, bird flares, all the dust of Iraq, rush off that aircraft, go knock out the objective, and we get back on exfil, back to that same ready room, and I emailed the retention NCO that night, and I said, at 6 years, as long as I can do it, sign me up now. This is where I belong. That's Phalanx. I want Rangers to find their purpose, whether it's in the 75th Ranger Regiment or outside the 75th Ranger Regiment. Because like me, it's going to end for us all at some point, right? It's going to end for me in January. It's going to end for somebody at 4 years. It's going to end for somebody at 30 years, but it's going to end. And we've all seen it when it ends. Some of our Rangers, some of our brothers and sisters have trouble, right? Those first 2 years struggling to find their purpose. They don't know who they are. They don't have the emotional intelligence. They don't have the wherewithal. They're not educated on outside means. Don't know how to translate their skills. and they fall on their face. Phalanx will hopefully stymie some of that, right? And start educating them on that. We're requiring in the 75th now, they have to get civilian education to be a platoon sergeant and a first sergeant, right? We're not trying to make officers out of them, we're just trying to have them scratch the surface a little bit so they can see how easy it is to get a college degree. Because it's no different than your Ranger tab, really. You can't come to the organization as an infantryman and be a leader without a Ranger tab. You kind of need a bachelor's degree if you want to get out and get some jobs of meaning out there. It's no different, same thing. So we implemented the Phalanx program. You know, COVID in there, it's really only been going for probably 12 months now. And it's on those 3 pillars: career, education, and human performance. Career and education kind of go hand in hand as you go. It's your military education and your civilian education. So we looked at it, we stepped back and looked, and there was actually nothing written about what a Ranger is. Like, what's a Ranger squad leader? There wasn't anything written. It was a myriad of things. Now we have the Ranger career advancement models, which kind of lays out in space and time where a Ranger should be by every MOS we have in there, so they can see, you know, as a staff sergeant, I should be a jump master, I should be enrolled in school, I should be Ranger qualified. So now they can use it as a guidepost to guide them through their whole career. Right? And then we put in the education counselors. Like Sergeant Major said, we're the only organization in the Army right now that has our own education counselors in the battalion areas, right? So the guys don't have to go down to the education center anymore. They don't have an excuse anymore is all it is, right? There's no excuse. They can't say I didn't have time, they can't say I was going to the field, because they can literally walk in, talk to one of the education counselors and say, I want my college degree, or I want to go, we have a guy that's in a music program right now. Anything. You can go to the field for the week, and come back in, and that education counselor will have a list of options like, here's a path for this, here's a path for this. No excuses for them to do it. Because we held them to a standard, we said you have to get it, we had to hyper-enable them to get it. So we did it, right? We also have a personal financial counselor. So there's one personal financial counselor that sits in the Phalanx office that services the whole regiment, but he can give personal financial advice to Rangers and to their spouses. And kind of start helping them set themselves up for success, like I said, whether it's that 4 years or 30 years down the road. And it's all, and then the human performance. It would be remiss if I didn't mention it. So if you're like me, I'll retire in 6 months. About a year ago, I went in to see the medics. I had like 3 pieces of paper in my medical record, right? A jump physical, a Ranger School physical, and a jump gone wrong surgery, right? I've had a few more nicks and bruises in my 16 deployments in 21 years, but I was too proud to go in there and report it, right? Not say anything about it. And in the long run, I'm going to end up screwing myself and my family because I didn't do it, right? So now, as part of our selection process for our senior people, after they're selected, they stay back for another week at RASP 2, and they do a holistic health assessment from top to bottom. And they talk to all the Phalanx team, they talk to all the docs, all the medics, all the mental health people, and they just get a head to toe checked out. That way they can get fixed. Because we've all seen somebody get off-ramped out of the regiment when their body told them it was time and not when they really wanted to. And hopefully we can fix some of that and keep them around as long as they want. And then when they do transition out, they'll be taken care of. And it's all founded on the Ranger for Life concept, because we need to have to take care of one another, whether you're in the organization or out. Through the mentorship through Sergeant Major Hall has probably been the biggest changing thing for a young staff sergeant who's coming in who thinks he wants to get out of the Army. I hand them over to them, they get kicked out to mentors, and they talk to somebody from the outside. And I've talked to you guys too, some of you. They're not telling Ranger to get out. Almost all of them say, stay in. Or do this X, Y, and Z before you get out. And I've seen it multiple times now. Staff Sergeant E7, Junior E7s, they've decided to stay in the Army because they realized through mentorship that it wasn't time. Officers are really good at mentorship. The NCO Corps is not. We counsel once a month, but we never have actual meaningful conversations, right? It doesn't go beyond surface, and we're starting to get there. Because at the end of the day, all we really want is we just want Rangers to be successful. And this is truly a retention program. We're starting to see people stay because they know that we're here to take care of them and then help. When the time comes, we'll help them transition into the next phase of their life, and they can always tie back into the Phalanx program for anything that they need. A few things That happened, so as you can imagine, when we told a bunch of Ranger NCOs they had to get college education, there was a bunch of Ranger NCOs, myself included, if you'd asked that same squad leader back in 2005, I didn't join the regiment to go to college, right? But as in true Ranger fashion, as things get going, it turned into a competition. Well, if I gotta go, I'm gonna get my shit before you get yours. Oh, you're going to Auburn? I'll go to Emory and get my MBA. So it's Ranger's doing what Ranger does, and like somebody said, in another year, it's just going to be that's the way we've always done it. And it's just going to be in there, and we're going to have Rangers transition more successfully than we've ever had. I'll just share a few numbers. In the last 6 months, we've had 359 Rangers with 55 different universities enrolled. 7 in top 25 programs or better. NCOs, oh, this is only NCOs I'm talking about. And we have 9 now in Emory's MBA program, right? 2 will start here in August. We've had 5 senior NCOs go to Harvard behavioral economics course to learn how to communicate better with the, like next generation stuff. And they're just, these Rangers are getting in these rooms with these executives and these Ivy League institutions and blowing them out of the water to where they're coming to us and saying, can you get more of your guys in these courses? They bring such a different perspective and they speak up and they do things that we've never seen done. And it's like, well, sure, yeah, you can find the money, we'll send you more, right? But I say those few numbers just to show you that a Ranger can do anything. I'm a firm believer. I've spent a lot of time in a lot of those ready rooms, and I've watched. I can't believe what this 11 Bravo is doing over here, building a drone that we're about to fly on target. But he doesn't think that he can go get an Ivy League education, and he can get it paid for in most cases. So we're just showing the menu of options so they can go on and make the best decisions and have the most fulfilled lives they can possibly have, and the regiment's taking an active role in it for the first time.
And I think the course of a lot of our lives changed a whole lot. And I was blessed for my time enlisted in the Ranger Regiment. It served me well when I became an officer, went to Clemson University, and then was able, after some time, to come back to the Ranger Regiment as an officer. Right, but our bodies all do break down at different times. Yuma's looking a lot better than I feel right now. And so I was actually med boarded. And I started going through the process thinking that I was getting medically retired because of just injuries that occurred over time. Luckily, if you want to fight and stay in, the regiment fought to keep me in. The Army, so I thought, just the Army. And I got a call one day saying that there was a position open to be the public affairs officer and that I could fill it. And since that day, when this organization showed me that love back in that such a tangible way, I've devoted my life to the Ranger Regiment and to the Rangers. Now, I'm not saying I'm good at devoting my life to it. What I'm saying is I love an active duty Ranger that I don't know from across America who goes on target in Afghanistan. Did you hear Yuma just throwing out things like it was common? Right? I got an 11-year-old boy who doesn't get to watch TV, throws a fit. And these guys are putting on 100 pounds, wanting to go out and go kill human beings who mean that, who try to do harm to this country. And they're out there. Just, how could you not love these guys? So now I'm the public affairs officer, and I looked at the Army's transition program. And that's what you can do as a public affairs officer. You have to talk to nonprofits in the Ranger Regiment. So we have 17 organizations that we have on our roster that are Ranger supporting organizations. You ask the active duty Rangers who they are to list them on a piece of paper, you'll get maybe 4. And that will vary. And that's a problem, right? So Sergeant Major Hall's been instrumental in wrangling those all in a legal, ethical, moral way so that regiment can reap the benefits of folks who want to come back. That's why we're briefing today. So when I'm on active duty, I'm like, well, let's do our own Ranger transition program, right? Let's make this easy. Transition, you hear it, it's hard, it's difficult. Okay, we do hard and difficult. We like hard and difficult. That's why there's a Ranger regiment, is because of hard and difficult. And when you look at this process, there's only, not gonna go through it in a huge amount of detail. There's 2 things to look at. There's a universal start point, which is an azimuth check with gallant view, which is really the transfer from regimental, I wouldn't say necessarily transfer of ownership, But that's an entry point where the nonprofits can then figure out the needs of an individual ranger, and we align resources. And it's not about taking credit at who does what. Our success is seeing that ranger succeed. In the last 3 months, I've got separate emails from 2 rangers at 175, 1 ranger at 375. We're saying, hey, and this is, you want to feel good like as a human being and have purpose fulfilled? Tony, we did it. I just got into Gorzetta up in Emory, Emory's MBA school, right? But that only happens at Emory. There's another reason that these kids are getting into Emory. You have Lieutenant General retired Ken Keene is up there, right? In the leadership department. So what is that showing you as a ranger? It means we're connecting the dots. We're catching up to maybe, the SEALs do this very well. They do this fantastic. Their alumni network is fantastic. And that's why we're here with our alumni associations. We want to plug you into that. So I'm going to go over a few key points with Gallant Few, once again, founded by Carl Munger, with the idea of helping rangers, expanding to helping all rangers. But that QR code, that'll take you to our initial azimuth check. And I will tell you, Sergeant Major Hall will use that for veterans as well, that alumni that want to help and give back, so that we have a common picture of who our folks are that want to be the folks who give back to the active duty rangers. We focus really on 5 core areas. Employment or education, that's going to be up to the ranger. Education is generally always a piece to it, but right now, through our mentor network, we're looking at a staff sergeant and below, the opportunities for jobs come within weeks. A more seasoned, non-commissioned officer, and then captain and above, it might take a little more time because their expectations are a little bit higher in terms of responsibility. But anywhere from 8 weeks to 4 months, it's 100%. It's absolutely 100%. And it's not just because we're asking you, if you run companies, to give folks jobs. It's because you care about that individual, you take time to meet them, and you're introducing them through your network, whether they're rangers or not. I mean, when you say 100% placement rate, you know how much money you make at a college in terms of being in charge of career services when you say 100%? Like, that's a lot of money. Like, that's the value that we have the ability to provide that. Networking, we have groups on LinkedIn. We'll be happy to walk you through all those type of things. LinkedIn is really the grown-up primary social media that we use. The regiment use it with the Ranger for Life organizational page, and then we've grown separate Ranger Regiment and U.S. Army Ranger tab pages. Finances, this is huge, right? If we're going to really take care of our people, right, we have to bridge the gap of understanding that we need to treat our rangers and tell them things that are uncomfortable. Right? I am a college boy. All right, that was really fun being enlisted as a college boy for a few years as well. I got very strong. I'm very good at push-ups. All of my college friends from Ohio State have financial planners. Well, except 2. They're financial planners. You don't talk to successful people in Columbus who are in their 30s and above who don't have financial planners. Regiment can't tell their guys, you need to spend your money on a financial planner. You can't. You've got PSP, you've got the other programs. But when I go to buy a house, I talk to my financial planner about the interest rate, right? He tells me how to create competition. Things that are going to affect my well-being every single day in my marriage. What do half of divorces all end up dissolving on? It's finances. That's what the statistics say. So that's where as nonprofits, we can take this information, we can bridge that gap between what the military can say and provide, and we can tell them this is just the truth of the matter. VA claims, you're going to get a great VA claim brief here in a second, but we couldn't be more excited to have Ray Reed in our midst working out of our Ranger Outreach Center. Does he work for Gallant Few? Does he work for USARI? Does he work for the 75th Ranger Regiment Association? He works out of the Ranger Outreach Center for Rangers. He's not a branded individual. And so now what we have is the ability for Columbus Rangers getting out of ARTB, getting out of Ranger Regiment to have a person. And if you don't know Ray, he's kind of like a pit bull-ish guy. It's going to ensure that that Ranger starts with a good VA experience off the bat. How cool is that? Who would have liked to have that themselves when they were getting out? Or to know that they could have told their Rangers, go Go and see Ray, trusted individual who works with disabled American veterans. And then holistic fitness. All right, faith matters. St. Luke Church, it's a pretty big church down in Columbus, has given us a 3,000 square foot building where rangers and families can come for this transitional advice and spiritual fitness. Once again, government entity, the Ranger Regiment, can't really, they can say that spiritual fitness is important, but I'm telling you right now, I really hope you believe in my God. That's what I tell the Rangers. But if you don't, I really hope you know what you believe. Because people who know what they believe are able to have their marriage sustained because they go into it and they're not doing experiential learning. It might not sound like a big deal to y'all, but I think we all know that there is a suicide epidemic amongst veterans. And when you start tracing it back, the folks who truly believe in something generally greater than themselves, like those statistics are 30% less for those who have spiritual fitness. So now I don't care if you believe in God, I believe in keeping people alive, and that's science and that's data. And that's why that Ranger Outreach Center is there. I get pretty passionate when I talk about my God, so I do apologize for that. Every Ranger gets an individual transition plan, and this is where the linkage is, and I'm ready to cede my time to Sergeant Major. You take that aspect check, I speak with Rangers one-on-one. Sometimes I'll do groups, I'll put stuff on social media, but the whole basis is one-on-one. We write an executive plan for them, and guess who we CC? Sergeant Major Hall. And then he layers the vetted mentors on top of them, and I'll let you go from there, Sergeant Major.
You know, when the first principle you saw up there is, you know, the Ranger Regiment is formative in your life. And it was sort of funny watching the crowd as Yuma was briefing and was talking about a mission. And I'm looking at all our Vietnam brothers going, same thing. You know, we were on Chinooks, you're on Hueys. You know, we had all kinds of night vision and communications gear, and you had what God gave you in your wits in your head, you know. And so it's you know, my formative years, you know, came from the Vietnam veterans, because when I got the 1st Ranger Battalion, that's who all my non-coms were. They were Vietnam veterans, and you know, and they're the ones, you know, the things that I'm talking about now were something that I formed from many years ago. And then, you know, then they trained the next generation, the Doc Attaways and the Jim Burns, you know, some of the originals of the 1st Ranger Battalion. So it's you know, that's something very tight and very important to us. I mean, you know, the history of the Rangers is just so, you know, you cannot get in the 75th Ranger Regiment now unless you pass the history test. It's always been that way. You know, I mean, what organization puts that kind of emphasis on who you are and your culture?
You know, I'm probably going to push the wrong button. I'll push the right button.
18 months out, and again, as Yuma said, because of COVID, we're a little bit behind, but 18 months out, every Ranger, when a Ranger becomes 18 months within his window to ETS, or within 2 years of retirement, he's going to sit down, he's going to talk to somebody about transition. Yeah, he's going to be talking to his chain of command, but quite frankly, who in their chain of command has ever ETS? Who has ever transitioned? Who has ever had a job outside the Army? Very, very few. And again, that's why this organization exists. That's why we need you all, because you all have done that. I mean, no one in the Army, I had some great advice coming up. You know, I had a lieutenant that said put $50 away for, you know, out of your paycheck, take an allotment out, and you'd never miss it. He was right. By the time it came time to retire, I was pretty well off. Probably not as rich as Mr. Decker there, but you know, I'm doing okay. But you know, and then I had someone say, you know, get your education. It took me 20 years, but I got my education. So you know, there was help along the way. But when it came time to get out, it's like, wow, what do I do? I was like 95% of the people. I had no idea what I wanted to do. I knew where I wanted to live. I knew what my wife wanted to do, but I didn't know what I wanted to do. So, you know, what can you all do? Okay, there's a couple categories there, and Tony touched on most of them, but, you know, getting worthwhile employment nowadays is about relationships. You know, the number of people that get hired for good, worthwhile work based on a resume is very, very small. You've got to know somebody that says, I know this guy, he's a good guy, he's a good gal, you got to take a look at him. You know, and then once you talk to someone, they might say, oh, by the way, yeah, you're hired. We need your resume for our records if you don't mind. You know, so it's about relationships, and so that's what we need to do is expand that network. Right now, the network is about 1,400 strong. It's really bigger than that because that is just the Three Rangers Foundation network, but it's really much bigger because, you know, if we're short and a gap somewhere, I'll email Travis, or I'll email Steve, or I'll email Swiss Sponsor or point to Hawk and say, do you have this kind of person? You know, and so the network is really a network of networks, of reaching out people that can give you advice. Ask a lot of people to sign up to be mentors. The mentor network is about 600 folks right now. And a lot of people, they don't sign up because they're afraid they don't have the time. They're not trained. Yeah, you are, because you've been a Ranger, you've been out of the Rangers, you're out in the commercial world, and you got something to tell someone. You've all got good experiences, you all got bad experiences. And that's all they need. You ain't gonna help them make a decision. You're gonna tell them the good things, you're gonna tell them the bad things, you're gonna tell them what they need to do. If you want to become a doctor, you just don't get out of the Army and start medical school. I mean, there's things you can do while you're in the service. There's things that you have to do to get accepted in medical school. It's hard to get into medical school. You want to go to Harvard, you just don't get out and go to Harvard. There's ways that you have to do it. And you have to talk to people and say, this is how you really got to get into it. It's not as simple as you think. And oh, by the way, take advantage of these things in the Army and make sure you're prepared when you get out so you don't have that big gap. As Tony talked about, if you own a company or you're in a position where you can influence hiring, we need to know about you. Because again, you know, a Ranger get out there, we'll post you on our website and we'll say, what do you want to do? And they'll go on the website and they'll look at all our community partners, all these organizations that Ranger own. Are you interested in that? Yeah. So instead of just saying, you know, go and click on the site saying, let's see what jobs are at, you know, S&S Corporation, they'll look on there and say, oh, S&S Corporation, Ranger Jim Smith, contact him. He'll tell you about the organization. He'll tell you how to set up your resume. He'll tell you what you really need to do to be considered for that position. He's not going to get you a job. That's something you got to earn. But he's going to build that relationship. He's going to get you past the HR system and those kind of things. Jobs out there. You know, one of my pet peeves. You know, every company in the world in the United States of America is interested in hiring vets. We all want to hire vets. You know, come work for us. We're looking for vets. Click on that link. Look at the job description. Look at the job requirements. And you're an 11 Bravo. You're an infantryman. Self-selected out. I don't meet any of these requirements. I don't meet any of them. But again, our partners and, you know, providing, you know, a specific point of contact, they're going to go, I know what these guys and gals are capable of. So let's bring them in. Let's have a hiring manager talk to them. And let's see if he can make this organization better. If you've got jobs out there, you know, one, if you can influence how to write them so that they're really military friendly. HR people are doing the best they can. They're sincere. They are. You know, they want to hire veterans. They just don't know any better. They don't realize they're self-selecting people out of there. You know, but having that point of contact, and we got everybody from VPs to vice presidents to presidents of corporations saying, yeah, you call me. Again, you're not going to get a job. That's something you got to earn. But you'll at least have the opportunity to talk to someone.